Julian Lennon is our guest today. Hit subscribe to the KJ Today Show to get more pop culture, people to know, and pets.
Okay.
Hello, Julian. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
My absolute pleasure. Happy to hear you.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we're all happy to hear you. It has been 11 years since we got a full album from you, and now we're here to talk about it. Available on iTunes, Amazon, all the major digital platforms. Jude is out. How exciting is it for you to be back?
Well, I don't know yet. No, I mean, the response to this album has been great so far. So no complaints here. You know, it was a long process. I didn't think I was going to do another album, but you know, I literally happened upon a couple of boxes of every kind of format of tape that you can imagine that was, they were locked in my ex-business management basement. And I finally got them back, you know, like 5 years ago. And I thought, what is it? What are all these tapes? And so I started to go through the stuff. And the first song I came upon that I brought up on the Phasers was Every Little Moment. And of course, back in the 90s, which is when this was done, you know, we liked a lot of drum machines. And so I just literally updated, you know, put some real drums on, re-sang the choruses with a bit more and updated the production. And for me, it sounded fantastic. Sounded like I'd recorded it last week. So I was in. I was intrigued again to get back into the music. But the thing about this time around was that there was no agenda. There was no initially there was no label. It was just me, you know, digging into this stuff, getting excited about music again. And so, you know, I started going through the whole box and. You know, came up with a few more other songs, but then the pandemic hit, and that took a bit of a left turn. I started writing new material around that time too. It was a 5-year process, which initially I thought I was just going to do singles or EPs, but the boss of BMG, who's now a very good friend, has said, Jules, that you have enough material here for a great album. And the reason I didn't want to do an album was because I'd always felt that, you know, to a degree, if the first single doesn't work or whatever, the album is shelved, and that's a whole bunch of years of my life and the heart on my sleeve that have just gone nowhere. But fortunately, this time I felt that with the support of BMG behind me, you know, that maybe, you know, the public might actually get to hear this album. So, you know, fingers crossed, so far so good.
Well, I do have a couple of questions from our listeners this morning who are excited about the album. And the first one is Jane, who said, I would love to know why, after all this time and all of the different music that he put out, that he decided this is the album that should be named Jude.
And this one doesn't have one summarize, I have to say. Where do I begin? There are a number of reasons why it's called Jude. One of them is about the fact that, you know, when I stepped out of the music scene 11 years ago, that I decided, you know, what are the other things in life that I want to try to achieve? And so, you know, I had the White Feather Foundation. I became a serious fine art photographer. I make documentaries like Kiss the Ground on Netflix. And I've written, you know, a New York Times best-selling children's book. So I wanted to build a foundation, you know, a body of work outside of music that supported potentially doing music again. But the album, having said that, the album spans, you know, 30 plus years of writing, recording, and producing, which was my life in music. And Jude, you know, one of the main lyrics for me was taking a sad song and making it better, which I felt I'd done with all of the other work that I'd achieved. And so coming back to music was a different thing for me. That was one of the reasons. The other main reason was that, legally, I've been called John all my life. John Charles, Julian Lennon. I always felt like I'd been the second John, so to speak. But the thing was, all my family and friends had always called me Julian or Jules. When the pandemic came about, there was a lot of soul searching and looking in the mirror. And, I was asking myself, what's going on here? Who am I? What am I doing? Am I happy? Am I sad? If I'm sad, how do I change this? Or how do I find balance, peace in my life? And so, I had a checklist, to say the least. And, being called John was on that list. I've had many issues with being called John, especially at airports and security, and it was a nightmare. So I wanted to change that kind of thorn in my side, and I finally wanted to be me. I wanted to be Julian. So in 2020, I decided to change my name by default from John Charles Julian to Julian Charles John Lennon. Therefore, for the first time in my life, being me, being Julian, being Jules, being Jude, and taking ownership of what it meant after all these years of being Jude, and taking finally, I guess, as I said before, taking a sad song and making it better, because I'm probably more happier, focused, and creative than I've ever been in my life. So it was an important moment for me, because I felt like I was shedding a skin. It was the end of a chapter, and now I'm moving on as Julian. So there you go. That's a few of the reasons.
If I could,
but there are more.
If I could, hug you through this this phone line right now, it sounds crazy because you don't know me, I don't know you, but I mean, I do know you, and I'm so proud of you. Like, what an important step to be able to say, no, I am Julian. This is me. I find it absolutely fascinating, and congratulations, and so happy that those 5 years you spent making this album were enjoyable. You were happy doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a very different and difficult process with the pandemic. I mean, it was insane. That's why the process took 5 years. And I mean, normally mixing an album would take, perhaps a week, 10 days. In this circumstance, it took a year to mix the album, which I think, in many respects, wasn't a bad thing, because it gave me time to really think about these songs and how I was putting them out there, the arrangement of the songs, and how the overall album should sound. So it was, and again, I'm a person that believes in things that happen organically. I don't believe in pushing things. That's where, for me at least, mistakes have been made in the past, and also, especially in relationship to probably labels, record labels, and management in the past. I'd always been pushed, and that never ever felt right to me. So to be able to do this album in the way that I've done it and release it this way, it's just been, I'm just thankful. I don't know if I'll do. I mean, there's many more tapes to go through, and many more songs that I know I'm going to have and I'm going to work on. But for me, an album is a tough one. It's really wearing your heart on your sleeve, and as from experiences in the past, of course, if the first single doesn't work with a label or whatever, the album gets shelved and nobody gets to hear it. So, I really didn't want that to happen. So, it was important for me to work closely with the label BMG this time, but also in the future, I think, on a personal note, because I love all the other stuff that I do, photography, the documentaries, and the list goes on, I still want to do music, but I have to find a balance between it all. So I see probably, singles and EPs in my future in that regard. But no less quality than the album, than the material that's been on this album, hopefully.
Why don't you, before you start worrying about what's coming in the future, take a little bit of time to celebrate the fact that Jude is out. The album is out. Such an honor to talk to you, Julian. Thank you so much. All the best to you.
My absolute pleasure. The same to you.
Thank you for listening to KJ Today. Please hit that subscribe button and like to keep our YouTube channel growing and keep the celebrity interviews coming. And remember, our favorite part of this channel is hanging out with you. The KJ Today Show is live on Wednesdays at 7. Join us for the positive vibes of pop culture, people to know, and pets.